Here we go. Kia ora, I'm Zach Arnold from Sunreturn, a record label and artist service based in Tamaki Makaurau. We strive to amplify the work of artists who find freedom in imagining new and unique sounds. And today we are joined by Durham Fenwick, aka Green Grove. Hello.
Hello.
You're going to take us through Mog's House, which was the first song we released from your upcoming album of Isthmus.
That's correct.
Maybe before we crack into it, I like talking about digital audio workstations. Why do you use Ableton?
I started using Ableton because I kind of learnt to use Logic when I did some, I studied audio engineering, and we kind of did it, like part of the curriculum was learning how to use DAWs, and I learnt a bit of recording on Logic, but then through that became interested in kind of making my own music, and was just kind of like, friends of mine had been using Ableton for a while, and one of them had a cracked version that they gave to me, and that kind of started it off, and from there I became kind of I found it a useful tool for recording at home, because it does have this loop-based function, so that you can kind of start an idea and just have it running and kind of build on that. And I found that kind of intuitive to creating music at home. So that's kind of how it developed, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Why don't we start with, am I right in thinking that there's like a tom hit at the start of Mog's House?
There's like a percussive keyboard note, which is this. You could see the audio here. It's the CZ Fairy Tale track. Oh my God.
Yeah, cool.
So this is the patch I use on, it's kind of my favorite patch that I use on my Casio CZ keyboard, which is that keyboard was like the foundation for a lot of Green Grove songs. This one here, my favorite keyboard. It's like kind of a cheaper 80s keyboard that came out around similar time to like the DX Yamaha series, and that was like Casio's answer to it. And it has this particular patch named Fairy Tale, which kind of is the foundation of a lot of Green Grove tracks. Has this percussive kind of hit when you play the notes, and then a nice, really like almost spooky and cool sounding sustain to it, which I'll play. You can kind of hear that becomes a drone, which I've looped through the whole song and automated the volume in different parts. I kind of just recorded that one or two notes and then just looped it throughout, and it kind of like, it starts the song, and then as the song builds, you kind of lose you lose it amongst the other layers, but it's always there.
Very cool. And you use drones a lot, don't you?
Yeah. I find them very helpful in kind of creating a mood or a texture that they they're omnipresent. They're always there, but they can kind of disappear and come back again when the ear chooses to tune into it, I find. And I think throughout the album that is of Isthmus is there are a lot of kind of background drones. I heard that a while ago. I remember a friend telling me that Scott Walker used a lot of like off pitch or off key drones in his songs, and that like it can help to create a mood really effectively without crowding the track too much.
Have you done any, like, I see down the bottom we can look at all of your audio effects. Have you added anything to
the one drone?
Yeah.
So I've got this low air running on it, which is basically like a sub octave effect. Adds like bottom end to something that's not super bassy. And then I have this, I wonder if this is even turns on. No. So this is like an auto filter, which is just like filters out certain parts of the sound of the keyboard, but turns out I'm not using it, so that can just be deleted. and then it's and then I've got a bit of an EQ to pull out a resonant or ugly frequency in there.
Yeah.
And then I've just drowned it in reverb, as you can see here on the send that is sending to my reverb over here, which is the Mani M reverb. And I'm running the chamber reverb preset on that with a bit of the lows pulled out, and then just like yeah, so it's pretty much just running a chamber reverb setting on that.
Cool. And am I right in thinking that after that initial sound, we kind of start to hear something that is a bit noisy?
Yeah, so that's another kind of droning part which comes in. It's probably super quiet. Yeah. So this is another drone that I have throughout the whole track, which is a software synth that I use sometimes. It's called Element, and it's a Waves plugin. Oh my god. And it's a sweep effects preset, which I have basically just put one note, a D note, and looped throughout the track. And I have then gone in and automated the envelope on the synthesizer. So if I play kind of that big frequency sweep, you should be able to see the parameters on this soft synth moving around. I'll play a little bit. So if you watch you can see the envelope moving there. And then I've just basically done that. I've programmed that to move in little bits throughout the track, just to create movement and kind of emphasize certain parts of the song. And then, yeah, and that's kind of timed. The sweep is timed to come in with this this pad here, the Arctica pad.
And where's that from?
The Arctica pad comes from my Waldorf Blofeld keyboard, which is my other kind of go-to keyboard that I have sitting just here, that I won't lift up because it's made out of metal and it's really heavy. I might put my back out. But I basically went through the track with Emma, who did the vocal parts on this song, and got her to kind of help with a few of the sonic elements, like choosing the keyboard patches and etc. And she chose this patch, which comes in, and it's just the stereo tracking of kind of one chord, which I then went through and locked and had it play through the whole song, and just manipulated parts of the filter and parts of the this synth patch. I can play a little bit as it kind of fades in. Very blissful.
Cool. You mentioned Emma before. That's Emma Hall Phillips, who
DJ Orb.
Yeah, DJ Orb. And how did you both come to work on the song together?
We're both living together in this house, and Emma was asked to record a DJ mix and wanted to create a song to start the mix, and I was keen. And
Yeah.
I like collaborating on songs, and so we kind of just sat down one day during the second lockdown and came up with this, which was a really nice way of working, I think, having someone else there to kind of bounce ideas off and that sort of thing.
Cool.
And yeah, it never ended up getting used for her mix, which is funny, but I ended up using it, so at least it's seeing the light of day.
Yeah, I'm very glad you sent it through. It was kind of a later addition to the track list.
Yeah. It's a little bit different, maybe, I feel, than the rest of the tracks, but I thought that it kind of still worked.
Definitely. So what do we hear next?
Next we hear an affected percussive what would you call it? Oh, it's a shaker. It's a shaker that I've made kind of not sound like a shaker, as well as another keyboard line. But maybe we'll start off with the shaker. So what I've done is I've chosen 2 different shaker samples that I have, and put them into a MIDI sequence. So they play at certain times, and then I have affected them with this granular delay that Ableton has built in. I think there's someone at my house. Hold on.
Yeah, sure. we can pause it.
There's someone here to pick up a puppy, which is sleeping outside.
Cool. Well, you can feel free to, I'll do a cheeky cut and
Bloody hell.
You're back.
Sorry about that.
Well, good.
The gate was locked.
Who's that? Is that?
This is Tilly.
Yes.
She just got a bit spooked because there was a puppy here. Oh,
and now my cat's meowing.
Hey, hi, Eno.
Oh, Bean. Hopefully she doesn't meow too much. Okay, so we were talking about shakers that you were running through a granular
delay.
Yes. Is it called Bubbles, or did you call it Bubbles?
The preset is called Bubbles. So it kind of like sounds like bubbles, maybe a little bit. I will solo it and we can have a listen to what's going on. Can you hear that? It's quite quiet.
I can hear that.
Cool.
So there's like a really high hissy one and then that low.
So yeah, it kind of like, I think what it does, I don't actually really understand granular delay, but it seems to me like what it does is it takes the source, puts it through a delay, and then the delay is modulated so that the frequency of the original sample is then changed according to what frequency you set it at, and you can also choose how much modulation you would like and how what timing you want the delay to be. So you can see, it's got the spray, which is I imagine how much like pitch modulation it is, then the frequency, which is like where in the how high or how low it kind of ends up, or and then you can randomize it, and then the feedback is like how long it goes for, and it's quite I found it quite a fun thing to play with. I think it's a really cool inbuilt like feature of Ableton, and it can be really good for kind of creating textural sounds that kind of like keep the ear interested. I think when you're kind of like, when you're making more ambient stuff.
I was going to say that's the trick, isn't it? When I was talking to Amelia, it was all about like tension and release, whereas with ambient, it seems like you just have to have just enough going or just enough changing to kind of, yeah, keep you interested or keep you on your toes, so you know that something's happening.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting deciding to try and make ambient music, because I think that there are a lot of different ways that you can approach the genre, and that especially with electronic ambient music, you can do the tension and release thing like you would with dance music, but in a very different way, in that, like, you know, you can build a bunch of layers and make them sound really like atmospheric and full, and then you can take it away and that sort of thing. But it's much more subtle than if you're doing dance music. But I think with the way that I've approached it with the album, is more of a based in subtleties, much more less is more approach. I think that I have kind of tried to work on just allowing space for the brain to interact with the music, which is, I think, has been a really difficult but also really like interesting process, because there's a whole lot of like, is this boring, or is this just like, do I like it because I like the sounds, or I don't know. It's been touch and go the whole time, I think, but it's been really interesting.
Well, it's very good. There's no there's no question about that. It's I'm sure when people get a chance to hear the whole thing and a body of work, they'll really appreciate it. So what else do we the vocals haven't come in yet?
No, not quite. So we're getting towards that. There's kind of the introduction of the different melodic, well, not melodic, the droning kind of elements of the song have come in. There's a new keyboard line which comes in that we haven't looked at, which is just basically, it's that same patch on my Casio CZ, but I'm actually playing a kind of a chord progression that is very roughly like timed in with the rest of the song, and is sitting kind of low, but I'll play like a little bit of it. So that's kind of moving throughout the song, and just sits there.
You mentioned that one of the drones was in D. Is the whole song in that chord, or
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think so, but I honestly don't know.
Cool.
It starts often. I start with doing something in one key, and then I just end up just hitting notes, and then if it sounds right over the top, I'll just do it. So it could well be in D, but I don't know. If there's anyone that watches this and can hear it has perfect pitch, just please let me know if it's in D or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just sitting there. That's just got an EQ and it has this auto filter on it, which is basically filtering out all of the like higher frequencies and some of the lower frequencies, and it's then being modulated to move around in the head, in your head's, in the panning space, so it kind of moves from one side to the other throughout the song, and at a very slow rate, which is just basically saving me some work and like automating those parameters.
And this is a good reminder that, like, I think with all of your releases, you've suggested that people listen through good speakers or good headphones.
Yeah.
So a good reminder to put some on so you can kind of get the full impact.
Yeah. It's it makes it better for sure. And so then we're getting into just about to the vocals, which is this group here. I've got, I think it looks like four different vocal tracks going. With this, I just basically, Emma or B has a very good voice, the singing voice, and she wanted to do some vocals on it, and so I just kind of left her in this room to just do different harmonies and different melodies with herself, and came back like 20 minutes later and she'd done these 4 different tracks.
Can we hear them individually?
Yeah, she might hate me for it, but let's do it.
Let's do it.
So this is the first one. And then the second one. Third one. And then all together they sound like this. So yeah, I edited those together. Kind of, if we switch to the mixing view here, see these are the vocal tracks. I panned them all into a different part of the headspace. I don't know what the technical term for it is, but I panned them all.
Yeah.
So they all are kind of going in different places when you hear them. And then I did a little bit of EQ on each of them, and I also did some auto tune on each of them. More so, not that I needed to, more so for the effect of it, and also because I found that if I auto tuned them, the melodic aspect stuck out a little bit more in the track. So a couple of them, they've got reverb on them, and then I've grouped them all together so that I could control the overall volume of the tracks. And I've sent them to a delay and reverb. And then I have on the master of the group, I've got a compressor doing with a vocal preset on it. I've got its own reverb going, which is a large chamber, and then within this reverb, I've automated some distortion. So basically, as the vocal tracks come in and progress, I've added distortion so that they become more harsh and towards the end of it, it's kind of quite distorted, and that then feeds into the reverb and feeds into the delay more, and so that kind of distorting it, and which therefore compresses it more, helps to kind of like push it out, and it starts interacting with the reverb and the delay more, which can create more interesting frequencies and resonances that are quite cool, I think. And then that is going into this S1 Imager, which is a Waves plugin that basically widens the stereo field out. It spreads it out, and you can also position so what I've done here is I've angled it slightly facing out to the left, and I've made the width as wide as possible, so it's just sitting right out there in beside you, either side of your head, and then a little bit of EQ at the end.
And the vocals, once they finish, that kind of leads us into outro's the wrong word, but like that next final part of the song, right?
Yeah. I suppose it's like kind of an outro, kind of just a fade away. Basically, that brings us into the onset of the bubbles, the DSC3 bubbles, which is a patch on my synth, my Waldorf Blofeld, which is next to me here, that I programmed with. I used the external instrument, which is basically a MIDI sequencer built into Ableton. I use that to send out of my audio interface into the keyboard, so that the computer is basically playing the keyboard for me with an arpeggiator on it. And I chose this patch, which is a rhythmic patch. I kind of did this, I chose a rhythmic element towards the end of the song because I wanted Emmett to be able to mix another track into it for the start of the DJ mix. And I set it at 123 BPM, so that was kind of like more handy for her to start the mix. We'll have a listen to it. That kind of just progresses and fades in, and I did a little bit. So that kind of has like the same low air plugin on it, which adds the bass to it, and then a little bit of EQ.
Is that like a sound, or that kind of like, I mean, it almost reminds me of a ticking clock. Is that something you've used in, like, did that turn up on machine music?
No, I don't think I've used this at all before. Machine music had lots of percussive. I can hear Eno.
She's demanding attention.
Hi, Eno.
Back to clock sounds. Back
to clock sounds. Yeah. No, the clock sounds that I used in machine music were sampled from an old BBC Foley record that I bought. So I had this turntable that had a USB out, and I would record records into that and use it for samples. But this one is a new one that I've found, and I'm also pretty new to using the inbuilt sequencer, and so that's something that I've been learning. And I didn't really use on machine music because it was all more played. Like I've just played it myself, and then used some inbuilt drums and some sampled drums. Yeah, but it's got kind of a panned delay on it, this clock or bubble sound, which was built into the synth, and it kind of just interacts between the rhythm, almost interacts between each ear, which is I like.
And is there anything else? Have we, or is that you've kept it lean and simple?
Yeah,
lean and mean.
Yeah, it's pretty chill on the amount of tracks I've used. I think there are other tracks in this album which have more going on, but I think this one kind of didn't need so much, really. It all seemed to fit without adding too many layers. I didn't want to go too crazy on it. That's kind of, in tune with what I was saying before of the less is more thing. It's kind of I think it's easy to get bogged down with just layering things over and over, and there's something to be said for that because it can create amazing effects. But with this track, I think it just felt right in finishing it where it was and not adding anything else. There's more going on in the fact that there's automation, and the tracks that I do have are being manipulated to change throughout the song. But yeah, that's it pretty much.
How did the song change between like the mix and receiving the master at the end?
It kind of just brought out the subtleties more, which was something really cool, I think, about using less tracks and just adding small amounts of automation and stuff, is that when you do get the master back after having mixed it, it's more of a compressed file, and so it brings up the stuff that was more in the background when you were mixing it, and makes it more present. And so you kind of almost find you hear new things when you get the master back that you didn't realize that you'd done. So yeah, just sort of stuff with like the like how I've used this low air plugin to boost up some of the bass, like they were more bassy and more present, which I really liked. And also stuff like the granular delay sticks out more, like you can hear the trail of that delay just kind of like continue on for longer. And yeah, I mean, it's just basically getting the master back. There's lots more to listen to and the subtleties if you want to, and which is pretty exciting for me.
Exciting for all of us. Cool. Oh, well, thank you, Durham. Thanks for showing us through Mog's house.
No worries. It's very, very exciting to talk about and show people. I hope that people could learn something through watching this. I think if there's anything that I've taken away from looking through my session, is that using Ableton's inbuilt effects is quite handy. I use them quite a lot.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, well, yeah. Thank you, Durham.
Thanks for having me.